Order the Smart Growth Committee meeting tonight. Oh, good. Okay, I'm the chair, Jerry Stepaniak. To my right, Councilmember Brian Travis, and to my left, Councilmember Stephen Marvin. So we'll start with an announcement. There's an announcement that there is a public hearing to adopt the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan on February the 18th at 6:30 p.m. And I believe that's the only announcement tonight. So now let's open it up to comments, suggestions, petitions by residents, property owners, and visitors who are in attendance regarding any items that are not on the agenda. And please be advised that all public comments have a 5-minute time limit. No comments? Very good. All right, let's move on to reports. The first one will be the director's report.
Good evening, everybody. Aaron Fluck, Director of Building, Housing, and Code Enforcement. It was a really good January for us. One of the things that we were able to do is we had 178 outstanding licenses for residential or for rental properties. We were able to get all 178 cited and into the court system for late renewal. That has helped us close 39 of them since those citations went out, and that was as of the end of January. This week we've done 10 more, so we are getting a good response on making sure that we finish out those last stragglers. Just to give you a kind of a perspective on this, in total we have 5,820 rental licenses that we process through, and we're just dealing with the very last 2% of that. Also in our department, we have a new code enforcement officer. David Cannon has joined us. He is formerly in charge of problem solving and repairs for a property rental company. So he's familiar from that side of what we do. One of the big achievements and one of the great things that we liked about him is that he inherited about a little over 1,000 problems or repairs that needed to be done, a backlog, and was able to reduce them to only 400 within 3 months. So he's very good at dealing with backlogs and being able to keep up on things and work down things that might be hanging around a little longer than we want them to. We have 4 zoning hearing board applications, 2 for this month on the 23rd, or I believe it's the 23rd. And then we have 1 for next month also, or 2 for next month. The 2 for this month are 516 North Church Street and 515 Spring Grove Lane. We'll talk about those a little bit later. The other 2 for next month are 436 North Church, which is a continuation from I believe November. It is continuing to continue. And then 138 West Magnolia Street. Again, we'll talk about those when we get to the zoning hearing board information. Planning Commission was very busy in January. A couple of good things that they've done is they reviewed a draft of the Westchester Planning Commission's annual report. It wasn't until last year that they realized that they're supposed to be providing an annual report to the council. So they're very diligent in making sure that they're catching up and making sure they're doing things the correct way. That report, they created the draft, reviewed the draft, and voted on approval of the draft, which will be presented to you next month at this meeting, so that you'll have that coming to you. They did update and posting of the new Westchester Planning Commission's procedures to the websites. This is just a housekeeping thing where we're verifying how things will be run, how many plans we need for each application, whether we need them in digital or paper form, how many of each. They also did a little bit of comprehensive plan update prep. 2016 was when the last comprehensive plan was done or started, and I think it was adopted in 2017. At some point later in this year, we probably beginning the process of dealing with updating or reviewing the comprehensive plan. So as part of that, they were going over some of the outstanding items, reviewing the previous comprehensive plan, and actually going over the processes that it takes for them to work the process for creating the comprehensive plan. So just getting a little bit of a warm up so that they're ready to go when we get to the RFP process. Code enforcement, we are still focusing on work being done in the borough without permits. We did have one situation on forgive me, I apologize, South New Street. It was an unfortunate situation, they didn't realize, the contractor didn't realize they had applied for a permit, didn't realize they hadn't gotten it yet, started the work. So we issued a stop work permit. There was a fee for doing work without the permit. There's a penalty that you incur. And we worked with them through the process of finishing up their permit and getting it done correctly. So the idea is that we keep on top of the contractors in our borough to make sure that they're pulling the permits that they actually need. One of the other important parts about our code enforcement officers is actually doing code enforcement and ticketing. Generally speaking, there's your larger issues with ticketing is going to be property maintenance, ice, garbage, things of that sort. So we've been trying to keep up on making sure that we're doing those things. We had 125 cases that were started, which is a little bit down from what we normally have. We opened 76, and I want to explain why that is. In January, we had some snowstorms. So we had multiple occasions where people didn't shovel their sidewalks within 24 hours. On average, we received about 7 complaints for each one that didn't shovel their snow. So there's some redundant. So that is why we only opened 76 of them. But we were able to work and actually close out 258 cases that we were able to bring to complete resolution. So we were able to catch up on some of the older cases that we were still working on and actually get them cleared out. Last issue, we are keeping track of properties that receive points for either code violations or disorderly conduct reports. You see before you a list of the properties that have at least 3. At this point in time, we do not have any more that have more than 3. There are some that have 3 disorderly conduct reports, but 1 or 2 of them have not been processed or gone through the court system at this point. Also, there's a note there that we have 25 other rentals that I did not put in this report that have at least 1 point due to trash, snow, vehicle issues, or other violations. That's the overview of the report. Are there any questions?
Clarify the amount of time that before snow removal. For some reason, I thought it was like 6 hours. Before
24 hours.
Okay.
Has to be removed in 24 hours, except for in the downtown when there's a shorter period. I believe it's 12. I'm not 100% sure. I'll check though on that.
How long has the point system been in place?
I am not sure. It's at least been, I believe, since 21. I apologize. I've only been here since last July, so I don't know that answer.
Okay, good. So one of the biggest complaints we probably have is going to be about noise, obviously, particularly in the south side. Has it been effective? Have landlords been good about sort of reining in students? I mean, students are going to be students, but has it helped at all?
I just want to take a second to answer this correctly. This year, I will say that we have had more noise complaints than we have ever had by a significant amount. However, the three individual landlords or property maintenance companies that have at least 3 noise violations that have come in have been very responsive and very interactive, to the point of basically stating on the second one, anyone in this apartment that gets another one, all of you are gone, just gone. They're taking it very seriously, and they're working with us very closely. This is the first time that I know of that we've gotten quite this close to having to do anything with either revoking or discussing a revocation of a license or a suspension of a license. And at this point, I don't believe we're really going to get to the point. I'm not sure. I can't say if we're going to get to the point where we have to do it, but the people that we are talking with have been very, very responsive. And I've met with the one person twice already, wanting more information on what they can do and setting up their leases so that they're protected and how that it's following the way that Chapter 66 actually states. So that would be the best answer I can give you, because I don't have a long enough history with the borough. But in my opinion, I believe it is being effective, and it is getting attention of the landlords, and they are attempting to take care of it.
Okay, good, thanks.
I have one question about just the grid where you have portal requests, enforcement requests, case open, cases closed. So the cases closed, are those from the previous months, or are they in the same month, or how does that actually work? I'm just trying.
All of them. It can be from that month or
Okay.
from previous
So
months.
some of them are carryover.
Yes, a lot of them are carryover.
Okay.
And I will tell you that the majority of them that are being carried over right now are from rental licenses, because each citation that we do, we create a case so that we can track it through and make sure that it's being corrected. And we did not get a lot of traction until those citations hit their doors. Then all of a sudden, now everybody wants to take care of the issues that we've been waiting since June 30th, when they should have been done. So that has helped us a great deal in getting a lot of those illegal rentals or expired rentals taken care of, which is a lot of the cases that we have to deal with.
Second question is the cases opened are basically halved in January. I know you mentioned most of those were snow related. And so what were the previous months like? They were much higher. Were they mostly license related?
No. If you look at the previous month's reports that were shown, almost about 70% of those were, well, excuse me, there was about 50% that were trash and about 20% that were property maintenance. And then the rest were, so about 30% were, approximately 30% were rental licenses. Biggest jump for rental licenses were in the late December. And that's why you saw that, we're getting so many closed in January, because they received those citations and they're being closed out.
I have another question about the permit issue where the work had started and then you had to issue a stop work. What is the typical window for when a permit is requested and when it's actually issued? Just curious to see. Maybe there was, sometimes we found it out before you were here, that sometimes it's on our end, and I was just curious what the window is.
Every place I've been, it's always partially our fault and partial, some are our fault, some are theirs, majority are theirs. Generally speaking, we are getting them out in about 12 days. We are allowed up for commercial, or business properties, we are allowed up to 30 days with which to get the permits out, because there's a good bit of review and there might be issues where we have to ask for additional qualifying information, such as structural reviews or load calculations, things of that sort that may not have been submitted with the original documentation. Just so you know, the process is that once it's submitted, the clock starts for 30 days. You can ask for an extension if there's something that's causing an issue. If we ask for further information, that 30 days starts over again, because it was considered a non-complete application. And that is the way that the PA UCC has set that up.
Thank you. That was very thorough explanation. I appreciate it.
Okay, let me open it up to the floor. Anybody in attendance? Anybody else have any other questions or comments or thoughts to share? Okay, I'll take that as a no since nobody stood up. Next up is the Smart Growth Committee Chair Report, Smart Growth Goals and Objectives. Oh, is that up there? Okay. All right, so for 2026, the team spoke about a few different things that we would like to see accomplished in calendar year 2026. The first one is we talk an awful lot about all of the development that is going on or that has maybe been applied for within the borough. And I know a lot of constituents, a lot of residents, a lot of stakeholders in the borough would like to know what's going on for any particular property at any time. And what we would like to do, what I think would be a good goal for the team and for staff, is to have a single source of information available 24/7 on the web. So if we could have a listing that has all developments, some that are new, maybe applications have been submitted but maybe not yet approved. Another category might be development projects that have been approved by Borough Council and just maybe they haven't started yet. Number 3 might be development projects in process at each stage of construction. So projects at various stages of completion with an estimated completion date. And the last one would be summing up all of those that have been completed within maybe the last 12 or 24 months. Project completion dates and any relevant updates as necessary. So an awful lot of residents want to know what's going on. I think it would be great if there could be a single source of information online. People could go to it any time. And there are a couple of ways I think we would like to do this. And I'm completely leveraging, not stealing, but leveraging something that Phoenixville has on their website. And they have a map which you can click on links of the individual projects and it'll bring you to each one of them and show you what the current status is. Similarly, there's a list of every project that in each of the states that I mentioned. You can click on those and it'll give you all of the updates and a complete status update on each of them. So that's our goal. I'd like it to be simple, easily understandable, and easily searchable by address or by finding the spot on a map and clicking a link. So that's the challenge I'm putting in front of the team for this year. Anybody have any questions or thoughts about that or comments?
Would GIS be helpful in determining new projects or completed projects?
I'm sorry, who?
GIS is a general mapping service that I believe one of our members of the zoning department has access and is more familiar with how it operates, and maybe Sean can describe it a little bit better.
Familiar with Phoenixville's map, and we've been developing something like it. So we're already kind of on first or second base with this idea. So I think this is going to be a great addition to our website and information outreach. I was just trying to take some notes on things that were important to you and the committee to have, so we can bake those into the development, the webpage development process. So you want to know the status. You said things completed in the last 12, 24 months. I think we should go a little deeper than that. We have a project that was, for instance, on 250 East Market Street that was approved when I was in the approval process when I started working for the borough, and now I've been here 5 years, and they haven't started building it yet. But so it would be good to keep an eye on things that are older than 24 months.
I'm sorry, let me just clarify. I just meant to complete any projects that were completed. So anything that was not completed, I think we should have there for exactly the point you make, which is people keep asking, what's going on there? And so this would give the single source of information where anybody and everybody could easily find it. I'm glad to hear it. Sounds like a great project. Anybody else have any thoughts in that? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with other services that the county may provide in terms of access and monitoring this type of things that might be able to compare notes with geographic information services. Again, I'm talking out of the blank of my brain.
It's a great single source of information for tax parcel information and data that is served, and actually populates a lot of our data services we use every day. The application that Aaron uses and his whole team uses is fed by data from Chester County's tax parcel information every day. So we do work with that. Service is very valuable for sure.
We do have a lot of the information that was collected, and we had started with actually updating it and making sure it was on the website. So it's just a part of actually going through the process that Sean and Nick were working on and to get it finished.
Any other thoughts, comments on this one? Okay, very good. Second initiative, working in collaboration with the Sustainability Advisory Committee, we wanted to create tools. We'd like to create tools to ease residents, businesses, and stakeholders' pursuit of renewable energy sources. Some things can be done in the borough. Other things might be a little more cumbersome, might not be viable. But I think it would be helpful, it would be great for our constituents if we could offer a site with simple, again, easily understandable tools to help them understand things like how to start the process, estimate possible cost of implementation, estimate the likely payback, understand what offsets like grants, tax credits, et cetera, can be available, understand what other resources are available, what anyone else needs to know to be a fully educated consumer. And with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Marvin.
Interested in promoting individual homes, individual businesses to implant or install in their buildings or structures solar panels, as well as small wind energy turbines. And these turbines are vertical. They're not blades that swing in the air. They just rotate on an axis on themselves. They're fairly small. The question is whether or not we have the wind. And I think what I would recommend exploring first is whether the zoning would allow it for individual homes and buildings to install wind and solar energy projects. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or comments about this one? Okay. And then the last one is I don't have many details on this, but there's been a lot of press about data centers all around the country. And one of the questions we have is it likely or possible that any company would be interested in opening one in the borough? I'm not so sure there's a huge opportunity, but I think we should understand what our exposure could be, what might happen. I think there's probably one site maybe borough-wide where it might be possibly viable, but I think it would be forewarned is forearmed, if you will. So maybe we can get some understanding of either if we need to think about codes or just have something ready should anybody approach us about this. Mr. Floyd.
Our engineer from RVE had spoken to us at the last meeting. I believe it was earlier this month. It was the end of last month or beginning of this month. And she had brought that up also and was going to get some ordinances that she had worked with other municipalities on and provide them for us to review and see if there's any, we feel that if it's useful or should have something in place just to stay ahead of it.
Okay, so that's already in process. That's great. Okay. Thank you. Okay, next up is old business. So we have a motion to approve the Smart Growth Committee meetings, Smart Growth Committee meeting minutes from December 12th of 2025. Okay,
I looked back in the video because I was not on this committee, so.
okay. Do we need to vote on that or just approve? Motion to approve it?
Yes.
Need to be seconded?
It's our first one. That we weren't on. None of us.
Right.
So I looked at, that's why I went back and looked at the video. I didn't see anything.
Okay, I went back and looked at them as well, and I didn't see anything of any concern for me, but again, new to council. So I guess we vote, do we vote to approve them?
Yeah. Doesn't go to council. Yeah.
Okay, then we approve. Excellent. All right, next up, we'll move on to new business. And the first question is the consideration of directing the solicitor to attend the zoning hearing board for two different issues. The first one is Spring Grove Lane, impervious coverage and dimensional relief for addition. And the second one is West Magnolia Street, a special exception for student home use.
On 515 Spring Grove Lane, the applicants are looking to get some relief in regards to the impervious coverage. The issue that is that they're in the NC1 district, which has a sliding scale for lot size. So if you're under 12,000 square feet, it's one level. If you're between 12,000 and 20,000 square feet, it's another level. This property is, I believe, just slightly over 12,000 square feet, approximately, I think, a little over 300 square feet, 400 square feet over the 12,000 limit. And the issue is that at under 12,000 square feet, you have a 50% impervious coverage limit. Above 12,000 square feet, you have a 35% impervious coverage limit. So at this point, they're stating because they're so close to that level that they're looking for relief down to the 50% allowable impervious coverage. Now, extenuating circumstances with theirs is that they originally were a non-conforming on the impervious coverage before the current zoning went into effect. And I believe they were at 36. Well, yeah, they were at 36%. But they're looking to do an addition that would move them up to approximately 41% in this regard. At this point, it is something for the zoning board to determine, but I don't believe, because of the fact that it does qualify as a de minimis variance, that we would necessarily need the solicitor to go to this one.
Okay. Questions about this one?
No, I agree with the recommendation. I think we should not send a solicitor. That'd be it's my opinion. To me, that's where I am.
I agree.
I disagree. I think there is a certain area of the borough, and I live, of course, in that 5th Ward area, and South Everhart notoriously flooded area, frequently flooding. The borough has spent years and years of digging up this area to try to avoid floodwater to come down that street, that section of the street. They've added rain gardens on both sides of Everhart and West Neal Street to try to prevent and redirect the water. But of course, water being the nature it is, it doesn't really follow what a rain garden does. They made huge pits on West Neal Street to capture water, but it's still not enough. Rainwater still flows across that street. The reason why I'm saying this is because I live, every time it's a heavy rain, it's a river. And on both sides, and Rambo Alley as well as Everhart Park that goes down that area. It floods down Bradford Avenue, and I think it's a small amount, I realize, of impervious site, but I would not like to approve it. Thank you.
So I think the question before us is, should we send the solicitor to the hearing?
My option to look at is stormwater runoff. If that can be included in the research that's being done related to the impervious site and what actual effect it might have. Thank you.
Not sure how to proceed here,
So
but
it sounds like Mr. Travis and Stepaniak are in favor of not sending the solicitor to oppose this, whereas Councilperson Marvin is. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then we can have, what will happen next is this recommendation will go to Borough Council next week. And it'll be recorded that there were 2 in favor of not sending the solicitor and 1 not. And then there's a discussion with all 7 members of council, and then a vote's taken whether or not to instruct the solicitor to attend.
Okay. And the next one on Magnolia Street.
can I first make a correction on that one? It should have been corrected previously.
previous
I
one?
apologize. No, on this one, 138 West Magnolia,
Okay.
or excuse me, 138 Magnolia. It says West Magnolia because that's
no West Magnolia.
unfortunately that is what was put onto the application. So we just decided to put what they had put so that it matched the application to this. So I apologize for that, but it says CU, which is conditional use. Student housing in an NC2 is a special exemption, not a conditional use. So it should have been an SE instead of a CU. So it's not a conditional use, it's a special exemption.
So does that mean this appeal needs to be redone?
No, they filled out the application there. I don't know why the CU was put there. It was just a typo in when we did the agenda. I thought that had been corrected, but it wasn't.
It's a special set.
Special exception. All right. Okay.
The actual packet. Well, it's okay then. It's on me. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So what is your recommendation for this one?
This one is an interesting one. You received a staff report regarding this property. First and foremost, they're seeking several variances to allow them to do a special exemption, which is, in my opinion, my experience, that's not really the way that you're supposed to be going about it. They're looking for variances for section 112-906 standards for granting special exemptions for student homes, both are A, B, C, and F, which are 4 of the 6 things that are required for it. There are several errors or issues that I have with what they are requesting, including 112-906A. The single-family dwelling has a floor area of 1,000 square feet. They don't actually tell us how much square footage the property they have, so there's what relief they need in that regard to meet that. The second one is the student home shall not be located within 500 feet of a group home, quarters, institution, church, educational use, housing, or older persons or homes for handicapped individuals. Again, they don't tell us how far they are actually away from it and what amount of relief they need. So it's impossible for the zoning hearing board to actually make a determination on that. They also, the next one, they do have a student housing attached to their building, and that's the main reason why they're saying that they cannot rent that property. And in F, single dwelling student homes proposed cannot meet the parking requirements as set forth in Article 6. They don't state how many parking spaces they have either in the front of the building or off street. So once again, it's hard for the zoning hearing board to actually determine if they meet requirements for a variance. The other issue I have is that you don't generally make variances to allow for something to go into or meet a special exemption. Special exemptions are usually dealt with by zoning text amendments, which would change the actual zoning to include the type of housing that they have. And this is the single biggest part, is that in the zoning, it allows for a special exemption for a single family detached house, which means it's a one house standing on its own. This property is 2 semi-detached single family houses. So they do not meet the requirement to be allowed to do a special exemption. I would like to have the lawyer work with them and actually make them understand that they may not be going through the right process. And even if they do continue to go on with this process, I would like the lawyer to be there to fight the special exemption and the variances.
So what I'm hearing you say is basically the application they submitted really wasn't properly submitted. They missed a lot of points.
In my non-lawyer experience, yes, but I would rather have the lawyer sit in on this and explain it too.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to just add something to what Aaron was saying, in that when an applicant comes forward to the zoning hearing board and requests a use variance, which is really what Aaron was getting at, is they want to do something they're not allowed to do.
Right.
We're generally going to always tell you to send the solicitor, because it is, you can get a variance as a permission to vary from the code. And you have to meet 3 very strict standards to get your variance when you argue that before the board. But a variance is basically saying, let me do something that's not otherwise allowed. So we're always going to come to you and say, if an applicant's trying to do something that's not otherwise allowed, and we're talking about a use and not a small addition or additional impervious coverage, we're always going to come and tell you to have the lawyer argue that case.
Yeah, and based upon what I read, I think it makes sense, because there are an awful lot of questions that I still have about this, about what's really viable and what shouldn't and shouldn't be done. So I tended to agree with you, Aaron. Anything else on the board?
The other issue here, I mean, the biggest issue is setting a precedent for anybody that has a rental house to turn it into a student rental. And those are already capped. They're limited by an ordinance. So we can't open that Pandora's box, because your next door neighbor, my next door neighbor, everybody, there's a reason there's a limit to it. So that's why I would send a solicitor on that precedence alone.
Makes sense.
I would say no also.
Okay, I think we're in agreement there. So I think by saying no, that we all agree that the solicitor should be present for that meeting. Public comment?
Thank you, sir. Lisa Kearns, West Biddle Street. So we're still issuing new student rentals? Oh, well, then what are we talking about?
Don't know.
You can
You can.
apply for, it is an authorized, it's a permitted use in the zoning code. And there's a
Right.
process to which to go through to get it. And if you comply, you would get it, yes.
So are still issuing student, I mean, conceivably not here because they don't seem to meet any of the criteria, but, okay, thank you.
All right, let's see if last night I came pretty hot into the mic. Sean Barry, 15 London Street. So right now there, at least for the time being, I've seen them, there's a young family that lives there right now. And I just think that, just speaking on behalf of at least for myself and maybe many others in the neighborhood, I'd love to just see that this stay a non-student rental, because it's an opportunity for us to build back the neighborhood in a very, student dense area, as well as build back the tax base. This property is actually already listed on Zillow right now. If you want to take a look at it, I don't know if it matters or not, but for rent, it was $3,400 a month for a 5-bed. By the way, the square footage is just under 2,000 square feet for your application there. But and now it's at $4,000 a month, which is a 20% increase in like a 5-month span. So I also think it's, it's one of those things where I know we're not necessarily talking about rent control or anything like that, but affordable housing I think is something that people in my age and demographic care about for the borough. So just food for thought for you guys as you consider this application. And yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Just a clarification. The zoning hearing board will be considering the application. Tonight, we're just determining that the solicitor goes to that board.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Over here. Bill told me I could talk from this microphone, so I'll do that. Nicole Shimoni, 505 Keystone Alley. So I'm representative of Ward 4, Sean's ward that just came up. Yeah, I'm a little confused why the owners of this property are coming to us and asking for this. I also, if what you're saying, Sean, there's a gap in our ordinance that allows these applications. I don't think I ever realized that was there, that people can apply for student rental permits still. I thought that was.
I want to be clear. There's standards in the code that by special exception under which a student home is permitted. It's a permitted use in your code. And if you satisfy the standards, it can be a student home. There's no artificial 1,200's the maximum number rule. That's illegal. You can't do that in zoning. So there are standards that are very, very hard to meet. And that's what you do in zoning. If you don't want any more of a certain use, you make the standards very, very hard to achieve. And that's what you have in your code.
Okay, so that's why they're coming and asking for all these exceptions to our standard because, okay, gotcha. All right.
Okay, so there is no cap. You just described that's illegal. All right, but we do have a lot of, I don't want to say obstacles, but we have a lot of requirements that have to be met. In this case, clearly they're not meeting the requirements. And from what I've heard, they haven't even provided all the information we really need to make it an informed decision.
Correct. And a point is clarification with what Sean and them are talking about. Every use has to have has to be allowed somewhere. Because you can't just ban a use. It has to be allowed somewhere, but you can use things like conditional uses and special exemptions to give you a little bit more control and create criteria about under which they are allowed. That's what Sean was saying. We can't just ban a use, but we can make it to where it has to meet very specific credentials and criteria to be allowed.
So to sum it all up, I think we all agree that we need to send a solicitor to the meeting for this specific issue. All right. Next up is the motion to approve the HARB application, historic. The issue is consider a motion to approve the January HARB certificate of appropriateness for 4 different locations. The first one is 139 West Gay Street, a sign.
Yes, Harb reviewed this and did recommend that it be approved with 2 conditions or clarifications. The hanging sign design is approved as presented, with the background color being revised to an off-white instead of the color that they had chosen. The other sign would be a minimum of 36 inches by 36 inches. The size of the square sign shall be reduced if required to avoid interference with the existing pent roof.
Okay. Do we need to approve this?
But the certificate to proceed has to come from our council, so this is made recommendation of our council.
Okay, based on the recommendations from Harb.
Yes.
Okay. So,
As long as they comply with the comments, or is that the second piece? Yeah, we can make that a condition, so I would do that.
agreed. Mr. Marvin,
I agree as long as they meet the conditions.
recommendations. Okay, I think we're all in agreement that pending the agreement to meet those recommendations, we would recommend it to move forward to full council. Very good. All right, the next one is 21 South Church, shutter replacement, paint and deck repair.
Yes, the applicants are making requests to replace a bunch of different things, exterior wood shutter replacement, brick repair, rear entry deck renovations. The Harb reviewed the applications and they did make several recommendations, including that Harb was impressed with the quality of the proposed work and product as well as the thoroughness of the application. The proposed wood shutters and replacement hardware were judged to be of very high quality. During the brick repair, the masons should be careful to replicate the original mortar joints. They're not requiring them to be, but if at any ability to replicate the mortar joints, then they're asking them to put all effort into that. The Trex flooring was deemed appropriate for the rear side of the building. The new tradition railings are an improvement to the existing unit, and Harb commented the revised ramp may not be long enough to fully comply with the ADA requirements, but it will be an improvement to the existing steps for access. The applicant is aware of that condition. The Harb endorsed the project appropriate as presented. I will say this is the most complete thing I have ever seen to replace one shutter. Like 30 pages of shutter and how it's being made. I think
I
I
read
could
them.
make the shutter.
Okay, so again, I think similarly, there's a single recommendation and from my perspective, should this person meet that recommendation, I feel it's appropriate to move forward, but I'm sorry, probably should ask.
Before you do that, can I make one statement about the
Sure, of
ADA?
course.
When they said about the ADA not being long enough for ADA, that is something that would be dealt with during the building permit process and really shouldn't be reflected in this. Because if it is, they do have the ability to appeal to labor and industry to get a restriction or an alteration for the ADA if the building cannot meet the requirements.
So would that then be separate from this?
Correct. I wouldn't make any recommendation about the ADA in regards to this approval because that would be through the building permitting process.
Okay, and would that then happen after this?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Once they get this approval, then they can apply for to do the building permits they would need for building the ramp and for repairing the deck.
Okay, so that's totally independent of this then.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Any questions or comments?
I strongly support anything that supports ADA requirements and enforcement. So I approve of it as under the instructions you meant that'll be related to the building permit.
Okay, does anybody else have any thoughts or comments? So I think we recommend for approval and move it up. Council. All right, next up is 27 West Gay Street, sign and front facade.
Sorry, I was trying to get to the right place. They do recommend the approval of the certificate with 5 requirements. The projecting round blade sign is appropriate as submitted. The existing folding fabric awning may be removed, but they're recommending that it be stored on site in case anybody wants to reuse it in the future. The hanging sign is appropriate as presented, but shall be raised to be mounted within 4 inches of the bottom of the pent roof soffit. The sign shall be located to behind the existing soffit downlights. The new storefront aluminum window framing shall be fabricated from smaller 2.5-inch stock rather than the proposed 4-inch stock. Framing color shall be a medium tone. I'm not pronouncing that, bronze finish. The lower storefront knee walls will be retained in its existing configuration and refinished in the wood or composite raised panels to match the design of the existing adjacent raised wood panels of the overall building's first floor exterior finish.
Comments from?
No, I would just recommend a motion to approve with the conditions. I mean, it's a huge improvement on this.
Yeah, that
building.
looks pretty,
I mean, it's gonna
pretty
be-
bad,
It's
so.
gonna be nice. What's that? I know, I can't wait. Beyond and beyond.
Mr. Marvin, any thoughts?
Matter what it was before, because it looks so familiar, and I'm sure I've walked by it 1,000 times, but otherwise I approve what you plan to do.
I think it was a pets. It was a pet supply store before, I think.
I think we all agree with the approval pending the recommendations by Harb. And the last one, 225 North High Street, the cannon cover and exhibit space at the History Center.
This is freaking awesome. This is the one I want more than anything else. The History Center is looking to install a 1776 cannon with a 1776 cannon. Because they are the historic district and they should have them. The purpose of it is kind of in, I guess, continuing in the celebration of America 250. There will be building a pavilion, for lack of a better word, a roofed pavilion with brick walls around it. It will be a very nice exhibition center, preserving a good portion of American history. I don't think that Harb is doing a broad support of the application, but they did say that let me see, what is it? It will make to us just kind of, the Harb understands that prior to recommending for a final COA, further design efforts will be undertaken to enhance the visibility of the cannon by minimizing the visual impact of the pavilion structure. So they're looking at some ways they're proving it to move forward in the designing and getting building permits. But they were looking to particularly to get the front 2 pillars to be smaller because they're trying to make a brick pavilion out of this. But to move forward with building permits and other things, designing and zoning, they have to get a Harb approval first. So I think the recommendation is good as a temporary COA with the conditions that they work on redesigning the front pillars and to minimize the pavilion, the obstruction of the cannon by the pavilion.
So any issues with, I noticed that there was mulch and dirt there before, and now it's going to be bricked in. So any issues with maybe impermeability would have to go through zoning anyway.
Yeah, there will be some things that we'll have to deal with zoning and also with the building permits for it that will need to be done. That's a county building, correct? Not a state building. If it's a county building, then it still falls under our zoning and building permits. State buildings generally handle their own building permits.
Okay. Any comments by council members?
Become an attractive nuisance that children will start jumping over the cannon, and you never know when a thing like that will.
I can't answer for the future. Is it possible? Yes.
Only concern. I was wondering also the history of the cannon. Sturzbecker had a cannon that used to be in all the Memorial Day parades, but I think it was a World War II cannon, and I don't know where this cannon, who owned the cannon before this.
Hopefully not me.
It looks like it's pointing from Ward 1 to keep everybody out, actually. I think my first impression is I think it looks good. Pending all the recommendations, again, I think it should be moved forward.
I agree.
Okay, I think we're in agreement on that one as well. All right, that covers everything we had on the agenda. Let me open up now to, is there any other business? Keeping in mind the parameters, as we discussed earlier, are there anyone that would like to bring anything up at this point? See nobody stepping forward, so with that, it is 6:28, and we will adjourn the meeting at 6:28. Thanks, everybody.